Thank you, Chairman. And I think it would have helped to actually have a Forest Service witness here, because that seems to be a perspective that we're missing that might have some of the answers to some of these issues. And in particular, one of the things that's occurred to me is that there's a big difference in cost. We see a wide range of treatments between the sort of private land treatments that
We reached out to him, Senator Heinrich, and they said it would take weeks in advance for them to be prepared.
That's absurd.
That's absurd.
Yeah.
That's why.
Because there's a big difference in treating an acre of relatively flat, deciduous forest in a place like Maine or eastern Canada versus the cost of treating a steep mixed conifer forest on a 40% grade. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, it's all relative, Angus. It's real, 40% grade on the side of the Rocky Mountains in a very remote area. And so that's part of the reasons why we see these giant differences in the cost to treat an acre. And I guess the lesson there is just like a forest isn't a forest. The local conditions really drive many of these differences, and I think we need to get to that. One of the challenges I have in New Mexico, and this question is really for any of our witnesses who want to chime in on it, is that most of the trees that we need to remove in treatments from our forests are not trees that are easily sent to market. They're small diameter ladder fuels that currently don't lend themselves to traditional forest products. And I guess I'd like to ask folks what progress is being made in finding ways to turn those small diameter trees into value-added products so that right now it costs a lot to treat those acres, and then hopefully if we had those products, that cost could be mitigated or at least reduced. Ms. Mitsos, did you? Oh, no. Go ahead, sir, and then I think Ms. Mitsos wants to answer that.
Mr. Irving, go ahead.
Okay, no, I just say in terms of processing the small trees, you raise a good point that you have to be very efficient. We've spent millions of dollars in our own sawmills processing trees. Sometimes we'll take out just one piece of 2x3 or one piece of 2x4 that, and we'll supply this to the Home Depot, for example. But we have a mindset. We say it's just like the butcher. We got to sell everything in the pig, including the squeal. So we've got to make sure we save everything and really be efficient. And so, but it takes capital to do that. But it can be done, at least in our part of the world.
And I guess the challenge we have is many of the trees we need to remove they're not big enough for dimensional lumber. So what do we do with those? And Ms. Mitsos, you looked like you wanted to answer that.
I think there's a number of options. Some still need more investment, but biochar is one option. Biomass is another. There's promising signs with CLT about the size that they can use. We're doing some work in Arizona on Bill Williams Mountain where the small timber that's coming off is given to wood for fuel to the Hopi and Navajo nations.
So you mentioned biochar. Talk to me more about that. It's a product that has enormous potential, but it's been difficult to find ways to scale that in these landscapes, especially in landscapes where there are vast distances, and much of what determines whether something is pencils at the end of the day is the distance to market and the fuel cost for a product like biochar.
Yes, well, there's some folks up in Montana who have mobile portable facilities that are proving to be really useful, and oftentimes the biochar is immediately put back into the soil, which also helps the soil retain more carbon as well.
That's very helpful. Mr. Woodkey, I had one more question for you before my time is out. Talk to me about the role of prescribed fire in the active management of Western North American forests, particularly those that are evolved for regular fire cycles, such as ponderosa pine.
Thank you, Senator. Prescribed fire plays a critical role in forest management. It should be implemented on more acres. I think federal agencies should be looking at prescribed fire as a tool in a lot of places. The one caveat to that is that just in the sense that our forests are burning unnaturally during wildfire season, those same unnatural conditions make it very difficult to implement prescribed fire safely and to meet the objectives of those burn plans in a lot of areas. And so it's a little bit of a chicken and the egg. You need to really first go in and create forest conditions that are conducive to promoting prescribed fire use. Oftentimes, looking at historic forest conditions and tree spacing and making sure that the fuel is removed from the area before putting that needed fire back on the landscape. And fire can certainly be used as a maintenance tool once those conditions are in place, but it's very difficult to just go in and use prescribed fire as the first step in any kind of treatment plan.
Thank you, Chairman. And that's exactly what we found in many of these places where it may cost $1,000 an acre to treat something. To maintain it with prescribed fire is dramatically cheaper, and so creating those conditions for healthy maintenance really set the stage for decades into the future.